Hi, I'm Stefan Lovgren. I'm a journalist writing about rivers and other global freshwater issues for National Geographic and others. I'm also part of a research project called The Wonders of the Mekong, and I'm speaking today on World Rivers Day, which is a celebration of the world's waterways. I'm standing in front of one of the shortest rivers in Europe, Norrström. It runs maybe a quarter of a mile through my hometown of Stockholm, the Swedish capital, right past the seat of government here, and it connects Lake Mälaren with the Baltic Sea. I chose this spot because that's what rivers are, connectors. They connect people, economies, and nature, carrying water and nutrients that are critical to all life on Earth. At the same time, around the world, rivers are under assault from poorly planned dam developments, pollution, a soaring demand for water to irrigate farms, and of course climate change. The result is that rivers, lakes, and wetlands have become the most degraded ecosystems in the world. Just consider that in the last 40 years, freshwater species have, on average, lost 80% of their populations, declining twice as fast as land and marine species. And yet the freshwater crisis receives far less attention than other environmental emergencies, despite the fact that humans rely on the resources of rivers for drinking water, food, and sanitation. Events like World Rivers Day are important to shine the spotlight on this crisis and the many challenges facing rivers globally. And today I'd like to share with you some of the reporting that I have done on this topic. We'll start in Southeast Asia and one of the most important rivers in the world, the Mekong. The Mekong River starts in the Tibetan highlands and runs through 6 countries in Southeast Asia. It directly or indirectly supports the livelihoods of 60 million people living in the region. I first started coming here about 15 years ago when I was doing a series of stories for National Geographic with Zeb Hogan, a fish biologist who was studying very large freshwater fish species, of which there are many in the Mekong. Zeb's quest was to find out what the largest freshwater fish in the world is, because this was still a mystery. In 2005, fishers in northern Thailand had caught a Mekong giant catfish weighing 293 kilos or 646 pounds. But it was unclear if the giant catfish was actually the largest species in the world. The fact that we didn't know the answer to this question is not as strange as it sounds, because there's a lot of things that we don't know about rivers. In comparison to oceans, for example, rivers are massively understudied. And that's even true for an enormously important river like the Mekong. In its natural state, the Mekong is an ecological marvel and one of the great biodiversity hotspots in the world. In the river system, there are almost 1,000 species of fish. Tonle Sap Lake, Southeast Asia's largest lake, which connects to the Mekong through the Tonle Sap River, is the epicenter of the world's largest inland fishery. What sustains this incredible biodiversity is a flood pulse that shoots through the system during the monsoon season, and which causes the Mekong River to rise as much as 40 feet. During this time, larvae and baby fish are swept down the river in what might be the biggest animal migration on Earth, into the floodplains and the Tonle Sap Lake where the fish feed and grow. So great is this flooding that the Tonle Sap River actually reverses course during this time. After the wet season, the Tonle Sap Lake empties out again as lots of fish migrate up the Mekong River to spawn, and then the whole cycle begins all over again. But the Great Mekong flood pulse has been weakened because of dams built in the upper watershed in China and on many of the tributaries in Laos, Thailand, and Cambodia. Dams not only block fish migrations, but also prevent crucial sediments from nourishing rice fields and farmlands downstream. Over the years, I've been coming back to the Mekong, and much of my reporting is focused on the impact of these dams. In the last couple of years, things have taken a turn for the worse, with widespread drought also gripping the region. This drought is exacerbated by the changing climate, which is causing monsoon rains to become both shorter and more unpredictable, resulting in historically low water levels throughout the Mekong. At the same time, I've been amazed at the resilience of this river and its capacity to continue to deliver this incredible bounty for the people and animals living there. As much as possible, I've tried to tell these uplifting stories too, because they are as essential to the overall story about the Mekong River. Stories about how the isolated population of river dolphins in Upper Cambodia has actually increased because of good conservation programs. And the return of giant soft-shelled turtles that were long thought to have disappeared from the Mekong. Since a few years back, I'm part of a large research project called the Wonders of the Mekong. The project has enlisted a lot of scientists from both the United States and Cambodia who are learning more and more each day about the Mekong and who are working hard to protect this magnificent river.
It looks like it's in good shape.
I'm also writing a book with Zeb about the plight of the world's largest freshwater fishes, called Chasing Giants. A recent study showed that today only 1/3 of the world's longest rivers remain free-flowing, meaning their natural flows have not been interrupted by man-made barriers. And most of those rivers are restricted to remote regions of the Arctic and to the Amazon and Congo basins. The continent where the rivers are the most fragmented is Europe. Another recent study found that there are at least 1.2 million obstacles preventing European rivers from flowing freely. That's more than one barrier for every mile of river. What this means, of course, is that these rivers can no longer provide the many diverse benefits to humans and nature that free-flowing rivers deliver. In Europe today, there's only one major river outside of Russia that remains free-flowing, and that is the Vjosa River. Recently I went to Albania to report on this incredible, pristine watershed, and it gave me a glimpse of what rivers in Europe and elsewhere around the world once looked like. The Vjosa River starts high in the mountains of northern Greece and flows through Albania and into the Adriatic Sea. It's incredibly scenic, and like many Balkan rivers, it is home to one of the most biologically rich environments in Europe. The Balkans is the one area of Europe where rivers have, for the most part, remained pristine. But that may be changing. There are proposals to build more than 3,000 new hydropower plants throughout the dozen countries that make up the Balkans, which critics say could have devastating ecological consequences. So far, the Vjosa has remained virtually untouched. Plans to dam the river began several decades ago, but environmentalists and conservation groups, both internationally and inside Albania, have successfully fought off those plans, and today, the Vjosa is one of the last major European rivers that still runs wild. It's become a flagship for conservation efforts to protect rivers throughout the Balkans. For scientists, the Vjosa and its many tributaries, most of which also remain untouched, are a chance to study what rivers in Central Europe, like the Danube and Rhine, once looked like before they were polluted, dammed, and fragmented over the last 2 centuries. One scientist calls the Vjosa the lost world of Europe. In a free-flowing river, water, silt, and other natural materials can move along unobstructed. Fish and other animals can swim up and downstream at will, and the river itself can swell and shrink naturally, flow at an organic volume and rate, and replenish groundwater sources. In the Vjosa and pristine tributaries like the Shuchichka and Bensha, you see this natural system at play. It's a stark contrast to the few rivers that have been dammed, like the Langaricha, a tributary to the Vjosa which flows through a spectacular canyon that is also a national park, but where the last of 3 hydropower plants came online in 2015. It's not just dams that threaten the integrity of Vjosa and its tributaries. There are plans to build a privately funded international airport in the Vjosa River's delta region, next to a previously protected wetland area that is connected to the vast Narta Lagoon. But things are changing in Albania. In a country that was long an isolated communist dictatorship, where any type of civic activism was totally suppressed, championing the environment is becoming more visible among the people, especially the younger generation. And that activism is showing results. The government recently declared the Vjosa a nature park and vowed not to build any dams on it. But conservationists are not stopping there. They want to make Vjosa and its tributaries a national park, which would offer total protection for the rivers. It would be the first wild river national park in Europe. A survey shows that 94% of Albanians want the Vjosa River to get the new designation. There are encouraging signs elsewhere in the Balkans too. Earlier this year, the prestigious Goldman Environmental Prize was awarded to a group of women from Bosnia-Herzegovina who occupied a bridge over a local river for over 500 days and nights, defying violent eviction attempts by the police, to protest the construction of 2 hydropower plants there. It was the second time in the past 3 years that activists protesting against hydropower in the Balkans have won the award. Traveling around the world and witnessing the declining state of many of our world's great rivers, it's easy to despair. But then I come to a place like the Vjosa, and it fills me with hope that it's not too late to save our watersheds. The ecological and economic benefits of maintaining healthy rivers are increasingly clear, as are the solutions for how to do it. And we need to move fast if we're going to save ecosystems that are crucial to the survival of both animals and humans.